El Chapo, also known as Queen Goose Manlora, is a former drug lord from Mexico who served as the head of the Sinaloa cartel. He was regarded as one of the most potent drug dealers in the entire world. And now we are going to have a deeper look on his business and his life. Let's get started.
On track, now we going way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up, counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up.
El Chapo controlled organizations that produced, smuggled into, and distributed massive amounts of cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, and heroin throughout the United States and Europe, the two continents with the highest consumption rates worldwide. He did this by developing long-range tunnels near borders and distribution cells, which allowed him to export more drugs to the United States than any other trafficker in history. Between 2009 and 2013, Forbes listed El Chapo as one of the most powerful individuals in the world due to his cartel leadership's enormous wealth and power. On April 4, 1957, El Chapo was born into a low-income rural family. His family had lived at La Tuna for many generations. According to some sources, his father may have also been an opium poppy farmer, albeit he was legally a cow rancher like the majority of people in the region where he was raised. Armida and Bernarda, two of El Chapo's younger sisters, and Miguel, Aureliano, Arturo, and Emilio, four of his younger brothers, round out the family. About El Chapo's upbringing, little is known. He was functionally illiterate as a result of leaving school in the 3rd grade to work with his father. He frequently received beatings, and he occasionally ran away to stay at the home of his maternal grandmother to avoid them. To stop his younger siblings from being thrashed, he confronted his father, though. It is conceivable that El Chapo's attempt to stop his father from abusing them caused him to get angry with him. He turned to opium poppy farming, a practice that is prevalent among locals because there were not many economic alternatives in his hometown. El Chapo started growing marijuana with his cousins Arturo, Alfredo, Carlos, and Hector Beltran Leyva when he was 15 years old, fed up with his father's bad management. He used the proceeds from his plantation to support his family because his father spends most of his money on liquor. The most powerful and wealthy drug cartel in Mexico was El Chapo's Sinaloa. It operated distribution centers across the country and trafficked multi-ton cocaine shipments from Colombia through Mexico to the United States via air, sea, and land. The group has also been engaged in the production, smuggling, and distribution of heroin from Southeast Asia, marijuana, and Mexican methamphetamine. El Chapo assumed control of the cartel after Palma, who was El Chapo's mentor, was detained by the Mexican army on June 23, 1995. Following his extradition, Palma was imprisoned in the U.S. on allegations of conspiracy and narcotics trafficking. After the 2003 arrest of his adversary Ojal Cardenas of the Gulf Cartel, El Chapo's and close colleague Ismael Zambada Garcali emerged as Mexico's in-question top drug lords after their jail escape over 10 years after their initial incarceration for the murder of Cardinal Posadas Ocampo. The U.S. Department of the Treasury regarded El Chapo as the most potent drug lord at this time. According to a U.S. indictment, Juan Orlando Hernandez was bought with millions of dollars starting in 2012 by El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel, who then helped Hernandez win the 2013 election for president of Honduras. This influence made it easier for the cartel and its supporters to maintain control over and defend crucial air and marine transshipment routes between the United States and South America. El Chapo became a billionaire thanks to his drug business, and in 2011 he was rated 1,140th in the world and 10th in Mexico in terms of wealth, with a net worth of around $1 billion. The Sinaloa cartel also established a vast shipping and transport business to support its drug trafficking. The USDA called El Chapo the godfather of the drug business, referring to him as the greatest drug boss of all time, and they strongly believe he even exceeded Pablo Escobar in terms of power and influence. El Chapo was designated public enemy number 1 by the Chicago Crime Commission in 2013 due to the effect of his criminal network there. Al Capone was the last person to achieve such infamy in 1930. If you want to know more about Al Capone, you can find the link to an earlier video of mine about him in the description. El Chapo was the top drug importer into the United States at the time of his arrest in 2014. He benefited from the power vacuum left by Colombia's crackdowns on cartels to expand his business and win market share there as the country's own cartels were destroyed. He used the position similarly when the Sinaloa gang was largely spared by the Mexican government's harsh crackdown that brought down his rival gangs. There was a need for leadership in Mexico to organize methamphetamine shipments north after the Amezcua brothers, the Colima cartel's founders, were arrested in 1999 on trafficking charges. El Chapo recognized a chance and took it. El Chapo and Ismael Zambada Garza utilized their prior connections on Mexico's Pacific coast to quickly arrange precursor shipments. Importantly, the Colombians would not have to be paid for the first time. Instead, they just combined methamphetamine with cocaine shipments. This ensured that no more funds were required for boats, planes, pilots, or bribes. To pipeline the new product, they made advantage of the already existing infrastructure. El Chapo and Ismael have been partners in the Sinaloa cartel up to this time. El Chapo would operate the methamphetamine business independently. For the purpose of importing the required precursor chemicals, he developed his own contacts in China, Thailand, and India. El Chapo built substantial methamphetamine factories throughout the mountains of the states of Sinaloa and other places, and he quickly grew his organization. He was able to cultivate relationships around the nation thanks to his wandering lifestyle. El Chapo was now conducting business in 17 of Mexico's 31 states. He delegated production of methamphetamine to his dependable friend Ignacio Coronel Villarreal as his company grew. El Chapo continues to rule as the boss of bosses in this way. El Chapo and his Sinaloa lawyer Humberto Loya Castro were both indicted in San Diego on U.S. accusations of money laundering and bringing tons of cocaine into California while they were both imprisoned in Mexico. El Chapo paid off guards to help him escape after a Mexican Supreme Court decision made extradition between Mexico and the United States simpler. El Chapo's electronically powered cell door was opened by prison officer Francisco Rivera on January 19, 2001. El Chapo then entered a laundry cart that maintenance worker Javier Camberos drove past many doors before exiting the building through the front door. He was subsequently driven outside of the town in the trunk of a car driven by Camberos. Camberos entered a gas station, but when he emerged, El Chapo had fled on foot into the darkness. Authorities claim that 78 persons were involved in his escape strategy. With all the bribes and other expenses, the escape cost El Chapo a whopping $2,500,000. El Chapo made another prison break on July 11, 2015. Security cameras recorded El Chapo's last image at 2052 near his cell's shower area. The only section of his cell that the security camera could not see was the shower area. Personnel went in search of him after security missed him for 25 minutes on surveillance footage. El Chapo had left his cell by the time they got there. He had escaped through a tunnel that connected the shower area with a house construction site 1.5 kilometers or nearly 1 mile distant. It was discovered. El Chapo descended the tunnel's 10 meters or 33 feet underground depth using a ladder. It had ducts for airflow, artificial lighting, and premium building supplies. Authorities also discovered a motorcycle in the tunnel, which they believe they may have used to transport supplies as well as El Chapo himself. Citizens reported armed persons in a residence in Los Mochis in northern Sinaloa, according to the Mexican Navy. The house was placed under 1-month surveillance. Authorities assumed Gran Marant was code for a high-priority target based on monitored communications. The house was raided in the early hours of the 8th of January 2016 by 17 Marines from the Mexican Navy's Special Forces with support from the Mexican Army and the Federal Police. El Chapo and a lieutenant escaped through a secret tunnel, emerging 1.5 kilometers away and stealing a vehicle at gunpoint. Federal police spotted and intercepted the stolen vehicle 20 kilometers south of Los Mochis. El Chapo offered police cash, houses, and jobs, but the officers refused. Then the police officers got the information that 40 killers are on their way to release El Chapo. To avoid a cartel counterattack, cops were directed to transfer inmates to a motel on the outskirts of town and give them over to Marines. El Chapo was then carried by Navy helicopter to the same maximum security prison from which he fled in July 2015. Later he was extradited to the USA. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, please subscribe to my channel and give me a like. Bye.